Hello, you guys. I do just want to give a super quick trigger warning for this week's episode. I briefly talk about sexual assault and domestic violence, and I understand that this can be a very triggering topic for some. And if this is you, please feel free to skip this week's episode. And if you or anyone that you know needs support, please make sure to see the show notes for support lines and resources. Welcome to 19 Miles, the podcast dedicated to propelling you 19 miles forward. I'm Stella, your host, and each week we deep dive into powerful stories, my unsolicited advice, and how you can overcome adversity and unlock your true potential. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of 19 Miles. This one is a big one. We're going to get deep. We're going to get vulnerable. We're going to open up, and hopefully, do you know what? It's actually okay if we do get emotional. This is maybe the most vulnerable I have ever been on social media, and it's taken me a long time to be able to even remotely touch on this, so bear with me. It's a lot. Before we get into this week's episode, let's do a quick recap. I don't actually have a worst. I've been trying to pick my brain and see if there's anything, any lessons that I've been able to take away from the week, or negatives that we can find a new perspective on. But I honestly nothing to complain about. Not that the lessons are a complaint, but positive to take away, or the best thing that's happened is I've been working on, I test all of the workouts that I give for my clients. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but I do personalized gym programs as well as the mindset coaching, and I test all of the workouts. So I've been testing a whole new split and a whole new range of workouts, and I am obsessed. This is it's just been a few minor tweaks to some of the workouts, and then I added in 2 full new days of training, completely changed it all up. But I'm loving it, and it's just it's giving me a new inspiration for the gym. And actually, I always get asked this question: what keeps you motivated in the gym? And I will say motivation comes and goes. Don't get me wrong, you can't rely on motivation forever. You have to rely on consistency, and it being consistent enough to make it a habit so that you almost don't even think about it. But I also will say, having a new gym program, or having somebody that you a PT, or getting a coach, or whatever, one of those things, somebody to hold you accountable, will 100 million times improve that consistency and giving you that motivation. And then also, this is probably an obvious one because I have a disgustingly unhealthy addiction to activewear, but getting new activewear, I can't even tell you, when I get new activewear, best believe it's sitting out ready to go for the next day. And that is there is nothing like a new program and new activewear to get you motivated in the gym. Love it. Delicious. Anyways, that is all I'm going to chat about for this week's weekly wrap up. Let's get straight into this week's episode. So as you would have seen from the title, we're talking about silver linings, and what does it actually take for there to maybe not be one? I'm sure if you're anything like me, then you have faced, we're all dealt cards, right? Whether we like it or not, we're always going to be dealt shitty cards, good cards, whatever it is, and that's sometimes out of our control. And I'm sure you've sat there and you've asked yourself, why me? Or what is the lesson? What is the reason? You've looked up at the universe and been just please, give me a reason, show me, help me to understand why. Or you've tried to find the silver lining in a situation and not been able to see it, or you've looked back at a situation and you've understood everything happens for a reason. And I guess what I wanted to touch on in this week's episode is does finding the silver lining tie to personal development, and how your mindset can impact all of these things. If you're someone that's looking to invest in yourself, your mindset, your future, this episode is going to be for you. And even if you're not, it will give you a good perspective on finding hope even in the darkest of moments. So we're going to deep dive into my personal story. I'm going to open up to you guys on a bit of my childhood and stuff like that, and how I've always tried to find a silver lining, and why sometimes it's actually not about the silver lining, but more so the growth that follows. Naturally, I am a very optimistic person. I've always tried to see the best in every single situation, and even when I've sounded absolutely fucking delusional. Like, my friends have looked at me and been like, Stella, there is no reason. Like, you don't have to justify or find a lesson out of somebody else's shitty actions. And I guess that's where I've come to this new understanding of this concept that, like, maybe it's not about finding a silver lining, and maybe the post-traumatic growth is actually the silver lining or the lesson or the best thing that you can take out of a shitty situation. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, finding a silver lining is such a good mindset to have, and to be able to, you know, take away from every single situation and learn the best that you can with that is going to move you a lot further in life than sitting there and playing victim and the poor me card. If you're somebody that does struggle to see the silver lining and understand the reason, or, you know, I just want to give you a few examples so that you can see that, like, it's just open your mind and be optimistic and have an open mind and an open heart to the situations that are happening to you in life. And it might help you to, you know, move through new doors, and, like, just know that rejection is ultimately redirection. And whether it's taking a wrong turn on your way to work and just trusting that, you know what, maybe I did get to work 5 minutes later, but maybe the reason that I took the wrong turn is because the universe was trying to redirect me so that I didn't have an accident and crash and things be so much worse. Or maybe you were in the wrong relationship, but maybe that relationship is what taught you everything that you know about yourself now. And it taught you about the things that you do want in a relationship and the things that you don't. Or maybe being cheated on was exactly what it took for you to understand the importance of having boundaries and how to actually assert the consequences of boundaries being disrespected, and what happens when you don't assert the consequences. You know, like, there's something to be taken out of every situation. Or maybe it's you got fired. Guess what? Maybe the boss of your dream job is just opened applications to hire and you're next. Or maybe the rent goes up in your apartment and you're forced to not be able to afford the apartment anymore. But maybe that means that the owner of your dream apartment has just decided to sell the apartment or put it up for rent, and that is now where you're going to be. That literally happened to us in our last apartments. Like, it was beautiful, don't get me wrong, but, like, we couldn't justify it. Like, we could afford how much it was going up to, but we couldn't justify it. We were just like, why would we do that when we can be somewhere else? And, like, I think we've both got the mindsets of, like, you know, rejection is redirection, and there's always, like, you can never make a wrong decision. But then we moved into this apartment, and honestly, I actually feel at home for the first time since living in Dubai. Like, it has taken me so long to feel calm and at home and at peace, and, you know, we're finally here. And if it weren't for our rent tripling in the last apartment, we wouldn't have moved to here, and I'd probably still be going around the same fucking circle of just, like, struggling and feeling homesick and missing my family and all of that. And don't get me wrong, I still have those moments, but, like, this is where we're meant to be, and we just had to trust in the process and trust in that. People talking bad about you. Do you understand how bright you need to be shining for people to be talking about you? Like, you have to outshine all the other things that they could be talking about in this world for them to be talking about you. Or the people that are hating on you or judging you are doing less than you. Like, nobody that's doing more than you is going to be hating or judging you. So now all those people that are hating on you, you can just, like, sit there and be like, wow, like, I'm actually doing a lot. And it's the more people that see me and know me, the more people that are also going to hate me. Like, not every single person is going to like you. And, you know, having this mindset of being able to see the positive out of maybe something that could have been viewed as negative is what's going to actually move you forward rather than focusing on the negative. Like, it's like the law of attraction. Where energy goes, things grow. So if you focus on the negative and not actually turn that into a positive, then you're going to continue attracting negative things. Whereas if you focus on the positive, then you'll continue attracting those positive situations. Now, I do understand that silver linings are not always obvious. And this is what actually inspired this week's episode is, spoiler, I'm actually writing a book. It's in the background of everything else that I'm working on. It's obviously like the slowest moving project that I have, but it's just like more of a passion project. There's no other, like, it's purely just for me. And if anybody gets something out of it by reading it, then cool. But it's a while off being launched. But basically the theme of the book is I open up about my life experiences and things that I went through, and I kind of try to coach you guys through how I got through these things and finding the silver lining and the lessons and all of that. And something that I went through as a kid, thanks Mila, I grew up in a very domestic violent home and was sexually assaulted as a kid. And it's been the one thing that like I've really struggled to write about, and it took me, 22 years to be able to talk about it. So, well, not 22 years, but however long, like until I was 22, where I felt able to actually talk about it. And I guess like in writing this book, I've really struggled to see the silver lining. And I think there's a big part of me that's like the protective, like mum or whatever of like my younger self, that's like, no, like there doesn't have to be a silver lining, and that's okay that it feels unfair and unrealistic to not be able to see one, because it was shit and nothing is going to take away from that. Like, you're entitled to feel that. I didn't want there to be a reason for me being robbed of my childhood or my youth. And don't get me wrong, there's not a single part of it that's going to justify what happened to me. It's fucking shit. It's unfair, and it does really make me angry. But I think a part of processing it is understanding that maybe there's not a silver lining, but maybe the silver lining is the post-traumatic growth and who I have become as a result, and the mindset that I have. And like, you know, like, just because it robbed me of my youth doesn't mean that it gets to rob me of the rest of my life. And being able to choose that, and like, I understand that we're not always in control of the things that happen to us. We can't control, you know, those things, but we can control the way that we respond to it or react to it. And I'm choosing to like, yeah, it's broken me, but it's also made me the person that I am. And would I go through that again? Fuck no. But, you know, I can't change the past, and the only way forward is to see the person that I am now. I've gotten to choose the growth that I have. I went to my coach and I was like, I can't even talk about this, let alone write it or see a positive out of this situation. It feels shitty. And she was like, yeah, maybe there isn't a silver lining. Maybe the silver lining is the post-traumatic growth. And if that's all you have, like, look how far and like big that growth is, and that's something to be proud of. And so, yeah, I guess like in a way, even though it's felt impossible to find the positive out of such a negative and shitty situation, if that's all you have, that's like still pretty cool. And if you're somebody that is, you know, going through that post-traumatic growth, I want you to know that it's not necessarily about bouncing back or getting your spark back or becoming your old self. Like, she's dead. Respectfully, she's dead. And your old self has to die in order for you to become your new self. And you know what? Maybe you don't want her back, because maybe it was her not like disrespecting her own boundaries and not being strong on them and not having consequences that got her. Not that you're responsible for putting yourself, like, for being in the situation that you were in, especially in the case of like domestic violence or sexual assault or whatever, but like, you don't want her back. She was obviously vulnerable, and so vulnerable that she was, you know, endured this shitty thing. It's not about getting her back. It's not about bouncing back. It's about becoming a new version of you and finding a new and evolving into a stronger, wiser version of yourself through the face of adversity. If you've gone through this unimaginable pain, maybe it's not about finding meaning in the actual event itself, but it's in the way that you transformed as a result of it. So what are my tools in overcoming adversity or finding a silver lining? Or, I honestly adopt a mindset that allows for growth. Even if you don't find an immediate silver lining, like, you have to have a mindset that allows you to grow, because if you don't, you're going to stay in the same position and you're going to allow these shitty things to continue to consume you and bleed into all aspects of your life, your relationships, your friendships, the people that you attract, the opportunities that you attract, your business, your beliefs, the way that you show up in the world, the beliefs that you have of yourself, your self-worth, your confidence. Like, all of these things are going to be at the detriment if you don't work through or like choose to grow as a result of the things that you've been through or the things that are holding you back. And so some of the strategies that I use as a transformational coach are reflecting. So there's obviously so many different things that we can do to reflect, but like journaling, I've shared journal prompts in a past episode. If you go back and listen to emotional intelligence, that goes through a whole formula for processing emotions. Practicing gratitude, like as I said, law of attraction, where energy goes, things grow. So focus on the positives, be grateful, obviously still process the things that you've reflect on the shit that you've been through, but you have to practice gratitude. That's gonna focus on the strength and the resilience and the lessons learned as a result of the event. Reframing your mind, so training your mind to focus on growth rather than the pain, or put the shoe on the other foot, and just remind yourself things like hurt people, or it's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of them. And the last thing I would say is seek professional help. So whether that's a coach or a psychologist or energy healing or whatever it is, for me, it was investing in my coach and my psychologist, and hands down the best decisions that I ever decided to do. I cannot tell you, there's nothing that I am more grateful that I invested my time, money, energy, everything into, because, well, I wouldn't be here doing this if it weren't for that. And as a coach now, I can attest for how much we do help you to process your trauma and to find purpose and to guide you into a new version of yourself and have that post-traumatic growth. My job as a coach is to coach you through these things and to help you adopt the right frameworks to move you forward. My ultimate goal is to turn your liabilities into your greatest assets. Now, something that you can do is reflect on your life. Think about the areas where you've grown, even if you never found a silver lining. I'm sure you can now look back on those things and, have a new perspective on that. Let this be your sign to invest in yourself. Consider getting a coach, a psychologist, whoever feels intuitive to help guide you through this next chapter of growth. And maybe the silver lining isn't in the event, but in who we become as a result of it. And on that note, if this episode has resonated with you, if you're sitting here wondering what the silver lining is and who you're going to become as a result of it, if you're somebody that's wanting to take back the control and turn your liabilities into your greatest assets, then I want you to drop me a DM with the word find, and we can chat about how we can make this happen for you. As always, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you haven't already, please make sure to follow on whichever platform that you're listening on and rate the pod if you're enjoying these episodes. I love you guys so much, and thank you for giving me this platform to share my story and inspire you guys along the way. Can't wait to chat to you next week. Bye.